How did this start? Vegan from birth, like Sister Sunyata? Give us the rundown.
No, I haven't been vegan from birth, and that's just the beauty of it. I used to eat whole large pizzas. Of course, when you're a fighter, a lot of times right after you finish fighting, or right before fight night, right after your weigh-in, you hit that number. You want to eat as much as possible, right, to get all that that energy, that lost resources that you're going to need, the fuel. So I'm very familiar with, eating, these burgers and so on and so forth. I went through the process 28 years ago and became vegetarian. I had heart disease, which many of us in our community, as it's the number one killer for us, but also for the entire nation, had hypertension at 15. Yes, 15 years old, I had hypertension. Just off a whim of conversation. I was living in Florida at the time. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn, of course, but I happened to be in Florida, and one of my...
I have never met somebody from Brooklyn who will not, within the first 5 minutes, volunteer that they are from Brooklyn. So congratulations on keeping up the pattern.
Thank you. Always. So I felt like, okay, I'm not going to consume any more animals, right? It took a week from there. I'm 15, right? And had a ton of just discipline at this time. So I dropped all the meat, but I still was a sloppy eater. I didn't know how to be healthy, at all. So when I write these books, it's off of this experience that I've gone through, the struggle of being a teen and not knowing what to eat, eating white rice, with butter, with some greens out of the can, and cornbread was a lot of my meals. That was a staple for me when I was a teen. I really didn't know. I didn't become vegan until 8 years ago. So 20 years vegetarian, 8 years vegan, proud vegan. Soon as I became vegan, I was incredibly healthy. I had chronic bronchitis throughout my entire youth, right? And so when I dropped the dairy, it only took 2 weeks. A lot of spitting up, a lot of withdrawal symptoms, a lot of issues going on. But once I took that out of my system, I could breathe easy. Any given day you'd ask me as a teen, it'd have been like, I can't breathe. Like, my nose is just so much congestion happening. Now I can breathe, easy, right on the dime.
Is it the casein in the, because it's addictive, the dairy? Is it the casein that creates the mucus and all of the buildup and the clogging of your bronchial passages?
The casein and also the whey. These are proteins. These are animal proteins that come from cows. And they're suitable for cows. I mean, they're great for, for calves, right? So because as folks have learned, if you watch, I believe it is in Forks Over Knives, it's for, this particular animal, to grow and be like half a ton, or a quarter of a ton rather, but a lot larger than we would. We're supposed to grow. So of course it's going to come with all the different nutrients that help it be a healthy growing cow, not for human. And I had to understand that through the hard way.
Talk about, man, like, you're clearly an athlete, a fit guy. Apparently Karen has seen the pics. I have not. I'm good with that.
You got to. You still got the 8-pack, Omowale? Because he's wearing a shirt right now, button up to the
definitely.
Neck.
I want to show off.
But he's, come on, just one left breath. All right, let me not identify you.
I mean, I'll go to his IG if y'all want to see more. Karen, go ahead and tell him. You know the IG. Go ahead and spit it.
I have seen. He's got all of the muscle definition, and because a lot of times brothers work out and they don't have the pecs.
Right.
Omowale's got the pecs. He's got the abs. He's got the V. He's got the biceps, the triceps. Every muscle group can be identified on his body, and I think you're over 40. I just want to say that out loud. I believe that you are.
I
So
am.
and so go ahead, Don. I'm sorry to
Oh,
interrupt.
you're good. You're good. Can you explain and demystify this idea that you can't be a vegan or a vegetarian and build muscle or like get enough protein to really be, to bulk up or to be fit? My brother John Lewis, badass vegan, is probably in your world. And he spends a lot of time showing that you can be a fit or jacked vegan or vegetarian. Can you explain how to build muscle and how to be fit while still, not taking in animal protein?
Of course, and I put an article on my website, so I will say omowale.org if because a lot of people have been asking me this question. Fighters used to get out of the ring or the cage with me and be like, hey, so you're vegan, and just off of strength. So first, you're talking about amino acids, right? Think about it in the wild. The lion goes and tries to hunt, a small rhino. Can't compete with an adult rhino, right? Let's understand that. Can't compete with an adult elephant, right? Or a hippo, for definitely, right? So these plant-based animals, these herbivores, actually herb and chump lions at the watering hole, along the Nile or anywhere where they come together. So the lion is eating the animals that get the resources and all the nutrients from the ground. So we need to understand that. So I try to unpack this and make it simple for a lot of folks. When you're talking about amino acids, you're talking about just, either the plants or you're talking about how they're broken down eventually so we can then consume them from hamburgers. And if we eat, say a hamburger is just an example, or a steak, when we eat these items, we're then eating the cholesterol that we didn't need from whatever land animal, which is going to be a bunch of saturated fat as well. So it's going to be high in fat, high in cholesterol. So we're not getting the right amount of nutrients. And then on top of that, because we need fiber to clear out the cholesterol, right? To absorb the cholesterol, we're taking all this and zero fiber to even combat that. So of course, heart disease is number one. And of course, we're actually allergic. We're allergic to animal meat. We're not allergic to tofu. We're not allergic to seitan. Now, some people may have celiac disease, and those are people who are really gluten-free. They really need gluten-free. That's a small percentage of the population. So I want to put that out there, as well. But we break down our amino acids because plants are very simple. We'll break that down in an hour or less, whereas you might take 3 hours, or you may not ever break down the animal meat that you've consumed. It might take decades for you to break that down. How many times have folks have had colonoscopies and then can't really consume the food and break it down exactly like how a lion breaks it down, right?
There's a documentary called Game Changers. I'm sorry, Omowale. Omowale's here. Omowale. Omowale. He calls him Wale. Wale's real name is Omowale. So that's, it's, what does that mean? Because there's a lot of Omowales out there, a lot of Wales.
That's right. That's right. So Malcolm X also had the name. He got it from Ghana. Omowale means the son has come back home. I was given that name from a brother in Lagos, Nigeria. As soon as he gave it to me, I said, this is beautiful. And I started utilizing the name. That was in 2005. And he passed away in 2007. Actually, he was murdered in 2007, doing incredible work. And I told him, and I told my team here, because we went on there organized, and I said, they doing better work out there in Nigeria than we could ever do. And they still doing better work. Folks just don't know. We don't get that reporting that's happening with what's happening on the ground. It was just organizing from one side of Africa to the other side, from Nigeria to Kenya. He was doing amazing work.
I'm sorry, Don. So I just wanted to give that. Omowale.org is where you can find his articles and stuff. And there's a documentary called Game Changers, which which talks about these incredibly strong people who athletes who are vegans. So
Right.
that documentary, I watched it. It was amazing. All right, go ahead, Don. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm just listen. I'm
What's the
thinking about it.
difficulty of being vegan? What's the difficulty of making the transition?
It's just, man, like eating, regardless of what you eat, eating and drinking and socializing is so
Right.
much of our culture, and it's
Right.
so much of what we're looking forward to getting back to when the world opens up. And I just meats are such a part of our foundation here in America when it comes to what we eat and what we consume, that it seems like such a massive sacrifice, even though I know there is no level of animal protein which is safe for the body. Everyone
Right.
you ingest gives you some level of toxin, some level of preservative, some level of cholesterol. And I'm a guy who's had a heart attack, so I know I don't need cholesterol, right? But that said, it's just still such a transition that it's so hard to wrap your mind around. So how do you get there? Do you go cold? I mean, for somebody who is thinking about getting into a vegan or plant-based lifestyle, how do you start that transition? Because it just seems like to go from 0 to 100 is such a massive leap. And maybe the issue is just purely psychological, but how do you start?
Well, I definitely want to. So it's real simple. I'm saying it's simple. It took me a lot of struggle, but I brought it to some folks. And they've tried it for maybe 2 weeks, and they're not going back to that. And there's a process to maybe going vegan. And the first thing to see is take the meat out, right? The dairy is going to be a little bit more difficult. And I think the dairy is more dangerous. I will say that. But the meat is easy. And the reason why the meat is easy is because we can actually find other items. And because everything else essentially centers the meat. If you decenter the meat, then you can get to dairy, which is also options. If we talk about the meat, now, they making tofu way different than they did 20 years ago. I remember when tofu used to taste like,
Yeah.
the ground, it was just cardboard, different flavors, different techniques also. It's more of the techniques than even the flavors, because we didn't even know that maybe marinate it like folks would do with meat, take out the water in the tofu and sit that in the fridge and allow that to marinate with your favorite sauces, because we know the sauces and the flavors make the meal most of the time, right?
Yeah.
So, but the same thing with seitan. I make seitan from scratch, and it's a lot cheaper. And in our community, we shouldn't be trying to get the most expensive thing that's out there. Surely, we definitely want to wine and dine ourselves, but we even have that's on a higher or more expensive level, we can also consume those items. Basically, being vegan at night is just like being a carnivore at night. You could be wined and dined at these restaurants now. There's a lot of vegan restaurants that are open. There's very little excuse, but I always understand my community and the transition. If you've been for 30, 40 years, been eating meat your entire life, well, then of course, it's going to take some time for you to transition out of it. So I totally understand that.